We are live now on Facebook, so welcome everybody. I'm Michelle Tolhurst from Profit First Australia, and today I have with me Tracy Brockhoff, who's a bookkeeper from Nourish Your Numbers in South Australia. Welcome, Tracy.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks.
So, Tracy, if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself and your business.
So my business is Nourish Your Numbers. We help women in business understand and take control of their finances without anxiety and overwhelm. We want women to stop putting themselves and their financials last, and start looking at their bank accounts as something that they enjoy doing instead of feeling anxious or overwhelmed by bills and numbers.
Fantastic. And if you could tell us, why did you decide to become a Profit First professional?
So a couple of years ago, I fell out of love with my bookkeeping business, and I was tired of doing historical data entry and that type of work. I was having a lot of conversations with women business owners who told me that they wanted to understand their financials better, but when they looked at the reports, they just saw a bunch of numbers that didn't really make sense. So I took a little bit of time off from my business and just did the basics really to keep going. And I decided to rebrand and to change the total direction of my business. And a big part of that was obviously helping women understand their financials. So when I thought about how I was going to do that, I didn't want to use yet another app and give them more reports with more numbers on them. So that's when Profit First came into it. It was really a bit of a no-brainer. It just worked hand in hand with what I wanted to achieve with my clients.
That's great. It's a very simple system. So you're right, you didn't want to confuse things and just make something really easy for your customers to be able to understand.
Yeah.
So what is it that you actually do with your clients at the moment in regards to Profit First?
Yeah, so at the moment I have a free Facebook group, Profit First for Women in Business. I provide a profit assessment for the women in business, which is, a financial review of their finances to determine their profit owners pay tax and operating expenses percentages. I also offer a profit planning session, and that's more of a done with you type scenario, to implement Profit First and achieve their goals. And from there we offer ongoing support packages, to provide support, accountability, and planning to help business owners continue to hit their goals.
Okay. And do you work with any industry, any women business owner, or specific areas that you like to work with?
I tend to work a lot with service businesses, or retail businesses. I think that's just how it's kind of panned out. It's not that, that's who I chose to work with. That's just how it's kind of, evolved.
Okay. And you are based in South Australia. So can people connect with you no matter where they are, or is it like remote or face-to-face, or how are you working?
Yeah, that way? Definitely. So all of my services are offered remotely. I tend to work on the bookkeeping side. I tend to work more with Xero and MyOb. And nowadays all the accounting software is in the cloud. So all my trainings delivered over Zoom, can be recorded if people need. So, that way they've got something to refer back to later on when it's, when it's forgotten, because training can be a little bit overwhelming. It's a lot of information to take in at one one time.
Yep.
And even though, yeah, you might think you've got it, then when you go back to do it a couple of months later, it was like, how did that happen? Yeah, so it can all be recorded as well.
That's great. So it's really good to have that resource to come back to at a later stage. If you can just tell us a little bit about when you implemented Profit First in your own business. So obviously that would have been something that you did first. So how has that journey been, and what changes have you noticed in your business since you started using Profit First yourself?
So I actually first implemented Profit First in my business about 3 years ago. I had been listening to Mike's podcast, Grow Your Accounting Practice. And then Laura did a bit of training in a Facebook group that I was part of. So from there, I jumped in and did the instant assessment, and I set up my bank accounts and I started doing my transfers. And it all worked really, really well. And then I would get like an unexpected bill or something would happen, and I'd be robbing Peter to pay Paul out of my bank accounts. And then when that started happening, then I would fall off the wagon, because I was a bit like, well, if I'm not sticking to the system, if I'm not, if I'm taking money out of this account to put in there, kind of what's the point of doing it? So I'd fall off the wagon, and then a little bit later I would think, it was working for me when I was doing it. Cash flow was so much better. Had clarity over my finances, and I'd jump back into it again and do it again. And then I'd fall off the wagon again, because I didn't have anybody there for support or accountability. And when it got too hard, I just kind of pushed it to one side. So fast forward a couple of years after falling off the wagon all the time, I stuck to it, and it's made a huge difference in my business. I don't have to rob Peter to pay Paul anymore. That money is just sitting there. As time rolls around, I just pay that, or my super, or tax. It's just relieved that stress of the constant money juggling.
That's right. And I think it's a really common story that we hear from so many people, that they try to implement Profit First and perhaps it didn't go well the first time. But I think one key thing you've mentioned there is it's hard when you don't have that accountability, that you're not checking in with somebody, that someone's not saying, hey, why did you do that? Or you're not meant to be borrowing from the accounts. And that's where using a Profit First professional is really, really good. And it really helps people to stick to the program and make sure that they're achieving their goals in their business, which is what they're set out to do.
Yeah, exactly. Or, like they could have also said, okay, so you've taken it from that account this time. Why did you take it from that account? And, what can we do to improve that moving forward? It might have just been a matter of tweaking my percentages, but yeah, because I was just kind of going it alone, I was pretty good at falling off that bandwagon.
So when you implement Profit First, did you do everything at once, or did you have a slow approach where you just did like 1 or 2 accounts?
I did everything at once. Yeah.
Is that the way you usually do it with clients as well?
Yeah, depending. Overall, yes, but it does depend on their needs. If doing it all at once is too overwhelming for someone, start little. Just start with 1. And I've kind of jumped the gun here a little bit, but I did have a bit of a tip there for business owners. Yep. And that was kind of going to be my tip. So, so what I was going to say was, like, just get started, do the instant assessment and open your bank accounts. The percentages don't need to be perfect. You just need to start somewhere. And if opening all those bank accounts seem like too much, then just start little, maybe with the profit account, and just set aside, even if it's 1% of your income, and just start forming that habit of doing the transfer.
Yeah, that's a great tip. So starting with the profit account, and then we can increase to other accounts such as the tax or the owner's pay and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
And for the accountants, bookkeepers and coaches that may be watching us, why should they consider becoming a Profit First professional?
I probably don't have the traditional answer that some people might have, because the last 10 months or so since I've become a Profit First professional has been a huge personal and business growth journey, with lots and lots of stepping out of my comfort zone, including doing this Facebook Live. So for me, becoming a professional hasn't even really been about the certification. You know, Profit First Australia are really supportive. You guys constantly provide resources for continual learning opportunities, and all the other Profit First professionals, they've been absolutely supportive and encouraging as well. I found that Profit First isn't really a set and forget type certification. So it's not like going out and getting must cert for in bookkeeping and then it's just done. You know, it's ongoing learning alongside a lot of other like-minded Profit First professionals. So yeah, so my tip for other accountants and bookkeepers and coaches would be, if you want to pivot your business a little bit or do something to make you stand out from every other accountant and bookkeeper out there, definitely get in touch with Laura or yourself, Michelle. Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
What's great feedback there, Tracy, and it is such a great community. So we have probably about 30 to 40 Profit First professionals in our group, and everyone is so willing to share information, which is really good. Well, that brings us to the end of today. So thank you so much for joining us, Tracy. We'll be sharing Tracy's website and her Facebook group information in the comments if you'd like to get in touch with Tracy. And we'll see you again next month. Thanks, everyone.